name is Miles Bloxson, and today I'll be chatting with author, award-winning poet, and theater practitioner, Jasmine Games, about her book, Somebody's Daughter. How are you feeling?
I'm good. I'm excited to be here. I love you, and so it's great to just talk with you.
Yes, I love you too. Mm-hmm. Everything about this project feels so intentional and so magnetic. Like, it's just a beautiful book. And the title of this book alone pulls readers in. Like, when I looked at it, I was like, oh my God, I'm somebody's daughter. It gives this feeling of daughters matter. How did you come up with the title?
So there was this Twitter trend going on where it was like, I'm trying to do this with somebody's daughter or whatever. And, you know, the poet in me was like, that's really like the beginning of a poem prompt. And then I was like, that's really a title, this idea of somebody's daughter. And then when you place it in, you know, context or out of context, it kind of applies to everybody. So I kind of wanted to make sure that it really covered the theme of my book. Mm-hmm.
I love that. And you start off by dedicating this project to my sisters and my sisters, Black women who were too grown yet still growing. Why was it important to you to create this collection of poems for Black women?
Well, first of all, I'm a Black woman. I have 4 sisters. I have a family that is heavy with women, and so I really care about Black women because they're my friends, they're my family. I see the variety of Black women. Me and all my sisters, we have similarities, but we're very different. We have different interests, and you know, sometimes people make Black women a monolith, but we're really different at the end of the day. And I think that we've gone through quite a bit in this world and society. I remember as a young girl growing up and being told like all the ways Black women aren't desirable. And it would be somebody who's close to you in your family or a friend or someone you at least respected in some way, and you find out that although they may seem cool with you, that they really don't respect you as a person or a human being. And so I really wanted this book to be a bit of a love letter to Black women because, you know, we hold a lot. We hold a lot and have to be cool with a lot in order to be content with the life that we have.
Yeah, we are the nurturers, we're the leaders, we're the decision makers. We are everything to our community. Like, we make things happen.
And people expect us to make things happen.
Yeah, I just said that's all we can say in that space is Growing up with 4 sisters, like now I understand the book even more. You had so much there.
And one brother.
And one brother.
Yes.
Poor brother. You had so much there in Somebody's Daughter. It felt so intimate, almost like you were allowing the readers to take a look through your personal diary. What was your intention when you were creating the book?
I really just wanted to put all the poems that I've written together. I started as a kid writing poetry, and I think I have poems from when I was either 16 or 17 that are in the book.
Wow.
And it was during the pandemic where I was like, I have all these poems, let's write a book. And so I was really just putting stuff together, and as I was putting all these random poems together, I really saw that there was a through line, that I really was attempting to tell my story. But when I was writing the poems, I wasn't writing them with the intention of, I'm going to write a book. So it became this thing where I really just saw that I was someone who really wanted to record my life, record my thoughts, and record my feelings.
Wow, almost like a journal, like of your thoughts and a collection of your thoughts, and you're like allowing the audience to be
I've
a
always
witness
kept
to your
diaries.
life. Have you? So some of the diaries, did they turn into poems?
Yes. I stopped writing in my diaries because someone read my diary one time. I was not happy about that. And so I was like, well, we're going to tell it.
We're going to tell it this way.
And so I started writing the poetry, and it serves that way. And there's some poems that will never make it in a book, but they're mine for me to have.
Personal poems. It seems like to me, though, in some of the poems that you do share with us, I'm like, whoa, like, I don't know if I could put it out there or be vulnerable with an audience or people in general, because like you said earlier, it's like, those are your vulnerabilities, right? Like, and you're sharing them with other people. And you spoke about how you have heard from, I don't know if you meant other Black women, but you said other Black people have like said things to you like how Black women weren't desirable. So to put your thoughts out there and be so vulnerable at the same time, it's like a lot, you know?
Yeah, I think in a lot of ways, we get it from everyone, right? We even get it from other Black women because of what they were taught to believe about themselves. What kind of, bias have they internalized against themselves to make them believe that they don't deserve certain things, or they only deserve it if they behave this certain way, or if they dress a certain way, if they are practicing purity in a certain way. And growing up, we talk a lot about boyhood. We don't talk a lot about girlhood. And I think when I think back on some of the stories, because I think at the end of the day, I'm a storyteller.
Right.
And I think a lot of the stories that I've seen about girlhood have been not really like Black girlhood stories. And so I think it'd be interesting to see what it would look like. Like, what does a movie look like? What does a play look like? What does it look like to tell a story that shows like a young Black girl going through all these things, making mistakes, and still being worthy,
And that's hard too, right? Because you're talking about like hearing experience. Basically, no one can tell you anything that they haven't experienced. And a lot of time, unfortunately, I feel like adults and people older than us, they put their experiences on us. They say, well, I had that experience, so you're going to have the same one, so I'm preparing you for that.
Yes.
And they kind of see it as like they're loving on you, or they are trying to save you or protect you from certain circumstances. But I feel like a lot of times that ends up minimizing your dreams and your goals and your experiences because you don't feel as comfortable to share when you're a young girl. So I definitely feel like, yes, we need more girlhood stories, and Somebody's Daughter is definitely one of those stories where
I
you
appreciate that.
Yeah, where you can just read through and I'm like, man, that was me. I had a crush on a guy, or I remember my mama, broke my neck in the sink. You know what I mean? Or like, there's so many different themes in this book, from Black hair, how to behave as a woman, Black culture, and you discuss your relationship with your body, your mom's relationship with sexuality, your dad's death. There are also universal themes about Black life, and you share your personal life with the reader as well. What made you interchange the themes throughout the book? Because you're sharing your stories, but you're also sharing the stories of people around you.
Yes, that's the difficult part. And I think when I was writing it and I'm just writing the things that I see, I really wasn't thinking about people's authorships to the story. And I was a little worried about that. But now I have family members who are like, I'm ready for you to write mine. And I'm like, it's got to come to me. It's got to come to me.
Yeah.
But I think our stories are intertwined with each other. I think that I can't write about my life, and I can't write about the things that people might see as wrongdoings from my parents without them knowing some of their stories. And although my biological mom is very strict, or was very strict, I think that was rooted in her own desire for me to have as much freedom as an adult that I could, once she couldn't make decisions for me. And it comes from her upbringing and what we're taught, that we have to raise Black children in a certain way in order for them to be able to survive and thrive in the future. And so I'm very grateful for the life that I have, even though it has its problems, because, hey, maybe I wouldn't have wrote a book. You know, so there's a lot to it. It's nuanced. There's lots of good, and there's lots of things that we talk about in therapy.
Yeah, no, and the book is therapeutic because it's like we don't always share our stories, even with each other, even with other Black women. We know that we're going through similar things, but it's like, nah, everybody don't need to know my business. You put a mask on and you keep it to yourself, and we hold it inside and we internalize it, and it comes out in other ways. Sometimes that could be disease, sometimes that can affect your health, sometimes that could be anything that we're going through, right?
Yes. Oh my gosh. And I think when when, you know, because there's a statistic out there that Black women are the highest degreed, statistically the highest degreed group of people in the United States. And I say that to say that although we are achieving a lot and we're achieving it at a great rate, we're also experiencing life at a great rate. And I feel like sometimes when we're in the middle of our achievements, that people don't actually get to see or consider the fact that, you know, we may have had stories that we've had to get through in order to make it to this point. And I feel like I've spent a life where I'm quite content, I guess, with what I've been able to accomplish. And also, I'm still holding, like, as I was accomplishing these things, I'm still holding, like, all of my childhood memories, all of the things I had to go through, all of the things that are in effect today because of what happened in the past. And, you know, sometimes it's like, I'm holding a lot today, and this is all I can give you.
Yeah. You're trying to hold space for yourself because it's like, who's going to hold space for you? If you're a superwoman, who's going to put on their cape to come save Jasmine and be like, are you good? Are you okay?
And when you're running at full speed, like, you don't really get to think about, you don't have time to unpack everything.
Nope.
Or pack it back up or do whatever you need to do with it. And so the older I get, the younger I feel, because I'm like, I just remembered that I love Hello Kitty. I love Hello Kitty. So I'm trying to get some of that stuff to my childhood.
Right.
I'm decorating the walls with Hello Kitty.
I love that. I love that. I do the same thing. I find ways to reconnect with the younger me. Things that would make me happy. Just simple things, right? Like anything that would bring me happiness. And I think that's so important to reunite with, like, your childhood. And we don't play enough as adults. We just don't have fun. It's like, we're an adult now, so it's serious. Get it together. Go get your degrees. Make your 6 figures. Find your partner. Like, it's like you said, we're carrying so much. It's like, when do we get a chance to just unload and just be?
Ooh. Are you gonna tell me? Because
I don't know. We're human beings. Yes. We're supposed to be. Like, that's supposed to be our main function, is just to be. But we've added on all these other things that we have to do. You know what I mean? And it's like, for who? Is it for us? Is it for everybody else? Are we trying to prove a point?
Yeah.
Are we really fulfilled at the end of the day? You know what I mean? So I think that a book like this helps you unpack some of that stuff. Yeah. If you're not seeing a therapist, you can read somebody's daughter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And feel like I'm connected to Jasmine. She is similar to me. I went through some of the same things that she went through. Speaking of that, your vulnerability shines through every piece, and every poem is so unique. And some are extremely personal. And you talked about how you started crafting poetry at, 16, 17? How did you decide what to put in this book and what to keep for yourself?
Oh, basically, it's like, I don't have a lot of shame. I don't. I have this thing where I really believe in, like, the function of truth-telling in our society. I think when we don't tell the truth, we do a disservice to everyone else, because we all basically begin to live in falsehoods. Okay, so I'm really big on this thing called radical truth-telling. I think that the truth-telling in our society is a version of freedom that we can give ourselves. When I don't have any shame about my story, then I feel like, you know, there's nothing anyone can tell me. You know, there's nothing where you could check me. You could say it, but I've already said it to the world, you know? And I think there's this, when I'm deciding which poems to put in there, you know, to me, it's what's the most relevant to me in my life. What are the things that I think about still? And there are some things I don't include, and some things I am still learning to have the courage to write about. But basically, if it sticks with me, if it sticks in my spirit and my heart, then I want to include it. And there are some things that I don't include because maybe it's wrapped up in somebody else's story a little too much, or I am not ready for the world to know it. So that's a lot. But also, when I was writing this book, I wasn't thinking about, and you know, my mom's gonna read it, and my siblings and my aunt's gonna read it. My grandma bought a book. I wasn't thinking about
everybody
reading it, you know? So yeah, it's a new experience.
Yeah. I think that's a good thing though, right? Because then you had no boundaries. You had no restrictions. You could just be. You know what I mean?
And I want to continue to write that way. I want to feel like I can write the most relevant work to my life as possible. And I don't want to think about, oh, what would so-and-so think? They can write their own book.
Yeah.
You know, and I haven't had any pushback or anything like that. Everybody's been extremely proud of me, and it feels good. It also feels good to share parts of yourself. And because you've said these things in a book and people can read it, there's just little shame to be had. You know, because we're taught that so many things we shouldn't talk about, should be kept secrets, ain't everybody's business, you know. And I think those are the things that cause us to make ourselves small and for us to go through things in private when we didn't have to.
In isolation. Like our mental health, you know what I mean? Like not knowing that Jasmine went through the same thing as Miles. Like when we could have just had a conversation, you could be there for me, I could be there for you. Because we're both somebody's daughter. Like at the end of the day, like it's true. Like the theme rings true throughout all women. You know what I mean? So don't bring home.
Oh gosh.
I have to say, like, don't bring home really stuck with me. It's literally is the blueprint guide to rules that a Black woman passes down to her daughter. It's like it's all there. And I have to know, like, was that piece primarily based on your relationship with your mom, or was it a collection of women that contributed to Don't Bring Home?
I would say it's with both my moms. So when I was younger, my parents divorced, and then my mom remarried a woman. And so I've had two moms growing up for most of my life. Okay. And that really has informed my like parental to child experience the most. And they were, you know, they was getting us out, you know. They were like, don't bring home. I couldn't make anything less than an 85 on a progress report. Woo! And then it had to be an A on report cards. And I was pretty good at it. I could do it. I could do it. But when I fell under an 85 one time on a progress report, I think, yeah, it was not good news. It wasn't good news. Man. But it's just this. That's the thing. We're strict, you know, no dating till 16. And then when you did start dating, you know, it was like, who told you could date? I was like, this was the rule. Yeah,
I thought y'all set the rules up. But it's like they weren't ready for that. You know, they thought 16 was 50 years from now.
Having ideas about your body before you even had ideas. I didn't even know, like, I had it like that. You know, and I wasn't that cute of a young. I had a glow up, you know. So I didn't really think anybody was really checking for me anyway. But just the idea that, you know, they're gonna be 3 steps ahead, and especially since I'm the second youngest out of all the daughters, I'm on the younger end of the kids. So they've already raised women and they've raised a young man, you know, in these certain like societal things, and so they're understanding, oh, how can we do this differently? So that's living in. Sometimes I feel like I lived in like plan B. I'm living in somebody's plan B, and it happened to work out fine. I depending on, you know, what you're measuring, but
right. Explain plan B a little bit more.
Oh, okay.
When you say I feel like I was living in somebody's plan B.
Oh, yes. Okay, so 6 kids, right? 3 of them older. So they're an older generation, mostly millennials. My oldest sibling, I believe, is almost 40. Okay. And then, or is 40. And then my youngest sibling is 22. And so we kind of were raised separately. Like, there wasn't a time... it was a short period of time when we had all 6 of us living in the house, but we lived in one of those households, old school, 18 out, you know? And so as I was growing up, my older siblings were already out the house. So it was like the older three and the younger three. So I kind of grew up with the younger three, which would have made me the middle child.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. So I got middle child syndrome.
Okay.
And also, like, you know, whatever, I feel like parents have ideas of what they feel like they were successful in terms of parenting and what they didn't do as well in. And I think when a divorce comes into the picture, and whoever the priority parent is realizing that they can do this thing differently, they can reframe their life or their child's life or their children's life differently. And I feel like my mom had a goal, and I feel like our personal desires weren't as, I'm trying to be graceful because I love my mama.
Yeah, no. We all love our moms. Yes. Yeah, we all love our moms for sure.
But I would say our personal desires weren't as important. And when I look back on it, some of them weren't important. They weren't.
Yeah.
But I don't have kids now, but there's some things where you would hope that a kid can experience, even if they later realize that, oh, this didn't serve me in any way.
Yeah. And I think too, I know too, that, you learn from your parents, and then you find things that you want to teach your kids differently. You might approach certain things differently. It doesn't mean that your parent did anything wrong. It's just that I feel like every generation should improve. You know what I mean? And there's nothing wrong with that. That should be the goal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like, our parents are working with the best tools that they have.
Yeah.
They have the best intentions. And it's just like, now, you've been raised, and now you can say, when I have a daughter, I want to approach it this way. But then there's also some things I want to keep.
But it's also scary because, like, I could have a daughter or a son, or I could have a child, and
right.
I could bomb it. Like,
you're not gonna bomb it, Jasmine.
I get anxious thinking about it. I don't know if I want kids. I don't think it's a big priority of mine, at least not right now. But
yeah,
you get real just thinking about it. Like,
it's a lot.
That's a human being.
That's a whole human being. It's a whole human being. It really, really is. There are so many amazing poems in the book. What's your favorite piece and why?
Okay, so the last poem in my book is called Hydrangeas in Bloom. I saw this tweet where it was talking about how the colors of hydrangeas change based on the acidity of the soil. And they're pretty good at surviving, from what my research says. They're pretty good at surviving through seasons and things like that. And I really just love that. And I was trying to find a way because there's some poems I had to add to the book to kind of string things together.
Okay.
And I didn't want my book to end on a sour note because I don't think that's what it was about. I think that there's a lot of traumatic things. There's a lot of things that are hard to write, hard to read out loud. But the point is that, I'm here, I'm alive, and I'm really pretty damn good. Like, I'm feeling okay, and I look good.
Yeah, you look great.
So I wrote that book. It was during the pandemic. I was in grad school, and I was one of those students who were like, I'm going to go home for a week to visit my parents for spring break. And then I think I stayed for like 2 years. Yeah, it was a healing thing, being able to live in peace with your parents as an adult. With freedom, because they afforded me so much more freedom that I didn't have as a child. So that was great. That's a side note, though.
Yeah.
So I was writing that book at their dining room table, the dining room table that I grew up at, because the house hasn't changed much. And my mom is an English teacher. My biological mom is an English teacher, a retired English teacher. And I read the poem to her, and she edited some pieces of it for me, and I really felt like it was all that healing. And when we're talking about somebody's daughter, daughter implies a relationship to a parent, somebody's daughter. It could have just been a daughter or something. So I think there was a part of it, and I think it's unique to my story, because I do say, forgive the soil that grew you. in the poem. And I don't want to impose that on everybody because everybody's story is different.
So different,
But for me, what works best is that I extended grace and I forgave and we were able to grow and live in a plan C.
Plan C.
A plan C where everybody gets to say what they need in order to happily be in a relationship with each other.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. I love that because I feel like a lot of times we think it's our parents' responsibilities to be the forgiver or to shift the relationship. And sometimes it's us. We've had more experiences sometimes than our parents. You know what I mean? Because society is different now than when they were growing up. So for you to be like, okay, I'm gonna forgive so we can grow and we can move to the next level. That's big.
And I'm a lover.
Yeah.
I really just want to love everybody. Like, I'm one of those people, I cry if I have to, like, be in some sort of confrontation because I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
But with my parents, it's like, hey, I want to talk to y'all. I'm going to continue to talk to y'all. I just don't want to have an attitude about it. You know, because, you know, you're going through that I'm getting older thing and why we have to do it like that. And
why do we got to do it like that?
So I basically was like, okay, here's all the things I'm upset about.
Right.
You know, I would like an apology.
Yeah.
And I got one.
Oh, well, there you go. And
so it worked out.
That's major, though, because everybody doesn't get that apology. You know what I mean? So for you to get it and feel healed and you're, like, renewed, you're like, hey, let's do this. We got a new relationship. We got a plan C.
Yes.
Yeah. I want to read just a few lines from Hydrangeas and Bloom. Do not forget the soil you grew from. It is this soil where you one day bloomed. Blue in the nights you cried privately, pink at the thought of your first love, purple in your young woke phase, white when you could not go on, orange because you are still alive, leaves winding up the wall, you could go all the way. So beautiful.
Thank you.
And you were talking the changes in the color to the soil, right? The acidity in the soil. And you kind of like connected each thing to a color.
I like it. Your environment changes, and you may be having a different experience, but you're still a flower. You're still beautiful, and it just looks different.
Just warm and tingly inside.
Yes.
That's all I can say. You illuminate the Black experience in this book, you know, like in every single way. Like you're talking about your dad loving Biggie. You know what I mean? You're talking about how we are when how Black people are when they're in theaters, enjoying the film together. And I knew exactly what you meant. There's don't go in there, don't do that, girl. You know what I mean? Like
I miss it.
we gotta talk to the screen,
Yes.
right? So how important was it for you to highlight the Black experience and make sure the stories were told from an authentic standpoint?
I think that was like one of the most important aspects for me. I think it's really, really hard, especially as we write books, especially like Black authors who write about the Black experience. There's a point of care you have to take because you always think about that single person who's going to read your book and apply it to everybody.
Yeah, I know. That's not how it goes.
It's not the same. I can even, you know.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's my story and a few other people's stories, but it might not be everybody's. But in terms of the Black experience, I really wanted it to feel and to be authentic as possible. And I did that just by recalling the things that I remembered in life, you know. My dad sitting low in a Cadillac, always had a Cadillac, and bumping rap music in the car, and that stuff is like, it's the joys. And then as I move out of Black spaces, you know, the more, okay, to be frank, the more wealth you obtain, the more when you jump income classes and things like that, which isn't saying I don't got a whole bunch of money, but I've come a long way from, you know, my upbringing and my early adult life. And you become, with that being, so you become less accustomed to being around Black people, Black people, and I've had to, I went to predominantly white institutions, and it's hard when you're living in, you were raised in the norms of a Black society, and then you as a single individual move into a place where you're the minority again, and even if there's another Black person next to you, they might not even have the same norms that you were raised in. Mm-hmm. And so you tend to miss it, and going home feels like a utopia for me. It really does.
Yeah. Black culture is just it's just something different. It's like you can't even explain it. It's an experience. It really, really is. And you see it throughout the spaces that we're in, even if they're not Black spaces. You see the impact that we have on other people. Yes. You know what I mean? So it's just one of those things where you're always going to miss it. You're always going to feel connected to it.
Yes. And then people who, I'm griping, but people who, like, I would be at these white institutions and, you know, people would not like Black people, but they would love experiencing all of the Black culture and all of that. And it really just, it made me mad. I was mad for years, enraged. I was on Facebook like, like I was arguing like full time. Yeah. I was furious. Yeah. And it really just upset me because, you know, there are people who enjoy the things that we make, enjoy what they can get from us, but don't actually respect us as human beings, wouldn't actually befriend us. So that it hit me really, really hard, you know. Yeah. Moving from Houston to College Station. Ooh. To even Austin sometimes. Yeah. So
yeah. Austin is different. You know what I mean? And going from H-Town where it's like a lot of Black people, right? And then going to College Station where I don't even know. Like I've only been there a few times.
And I didn't know anything.
Yeah, like, you're just going to school. You're just trying to live your life. I mean, I completely understand.
Like I had to become adept on politics. Yep. You know, I came into college for my bachelor's during the Trump election. Oh. It was. Wow. I experienced extreme racism, and I had to still make sure I was doing good in school so and that I could get out, you know?
This is in what year?
2016.
That's insane.
So it was very, very... It was hard, and I think I got a lot of, I mean, I'm diagnosed with PTSD, but that's for like other traumatic reasons. Right. But sometimes I think about all the ways in which I became someone who was ready to fight, who was ready to debate someone down, who knew that I have to wake up today and defend myself. And what does that feel in my, like, what does that feel like in my body? Like what is going on in my jaw? Like, how am I tensing my body just at the hearing a small thing?
Right. Because how is that impacting my spirit?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. And so it's just better to, like, I'm still all for fighting the good fight. And I care about social justice so much. And it's the field that I want to work in, and that I am working in, and it's more artivism now, but I think about that a lot because those experiences do weigh on you.
Absolutely. How did going through all of that impact your art?
I had a lot of angry poems. I had a lot of really, really sad poems. I think if we're talking like literally, like being in theater and going through racist experiences, we're talking about a lack of opportunities. So I've always felt like I've been a great poet. I've always felt like I've been a great theater practitioner. I was really big on trying to be an actress at one point. And then the opportunities that you get don't live up to what you expect you should be getting. And then in theater, it's like if you're not getting if you say something, then you look like ungrateful or you feel like you're better than everybody else, because, you know, actors can get a little
yeah, competitive. Yeah, for sure.
So, but the truth is, it's like the shows that we're picking already not in my favor for casting. And then when I get casted, like, this isn't great. I can't put this on an actor's resume. They're gonna be like, why were you even doing this role? And that stuff is hard. And then also, like, I was low income. I had people around me who were like gonna get funded by their parents to move to New York, do the big thing, and the people who were getting their rent paid, and I'm like living off of student loans and working and trying to get by. So the opportunities are different. The opportunities are less, and I think that's a big thing. I think I've accomplished a lot, and I'm so grateful for it. I think I could have accomplished more if I had a lot more things working in my favor.
Yeah. It seems like you were going through like survival mode, like most of us, but you're trying to create at the same time. And survival mode definitely impacts your art.
Yeah. And I wish I could write about cute, like, fictional stuff, like, and I don't think I can't do it, but the stories that sit with me the most right now are my own.
Yeah.
You know, are the people that I know.
The stuff that you actually experience.
Yes.
What do you hope the audience takes away from Somebody's Daughter?
You know, I really hope that people read this book and come to seek an understanding of themselves. I hope it inspires them to really look at themselves, look at their lives, and find themselves worthy of love regardless. I hope that people free themselves. I really like the idea of freedom as education by Bell Hooks. And I really think it is the work that the self-work that you do when you begin to study yourself and you begin to study the world is a way you can find freedom to a certain extent. So I hope people read the book and understand themselves better. I wrote the book to understand myself better. So selfishly, I would also say I hope people understand me better. I hope people, you know, see me and understand that I have a multifaceted experience of things that I hold within myself, and I hope that I can be seen in ways that I couldn't be seen before.
How has this book helped you grow and expand?
Oh, in what ways? Are we talking emotionally, professionally?
Just like getting to know yourself better. Like you want the audience to get to know themselves, explore themselves more, and feel more connected to the authentic them. What has it done for you to release this project out into the world?
I feel a lot more at peace. I feel a lot more like no one can tell me what did happen or what didn't happen, because this book serves as an artifact of my life. Regardless of the amount of people who read it or whatever it is, I was taking notes. I was taking notes.
The whole time.
And so in that way, it's given me my freedom, and it's also helped me work through some of the things that I was anxious about. Because although, like, I say I have no shame and I wrote the book and all that stuff, some things you do get anxious about. You're like, oh, wow, like, y'all read that? And so it allows me to be like, this is the thing I'm really proud of because it's a reflection of me. And if there's something in there that you weren't as comfortable with, or if there's something in there that, you know, you don't think I should be writing about, regardless, whatever it is, then you'd have to be okay with not accepting me as a whole person. And I'm at that point in my life where you either want all of me or you could just stay over there. Just stay over there. Because I don't want to live with other people's thoughts in my head. So for me, the book it's just giving me a freedom and release and a desire to do it more.
Well, thank you so much, Jasmine.
Well, thank you.
Aw. Go get Somebody's Daughter by Jasmine Games. Hello.